The trap of being somebody. From the moment we are born, the world begins shaping us with expectations. Parents, teachers, society all tell us we must become somebody. We are told to work hard, get ahead, earn titles, achieve recognition, and prove ourselves to the world. As children, we hear praises when we succeed and criticism when we fall short. Slowly, we start believing that our value comes from what we achieve, not from who we are. And so, the chase begins. We chase grades in school, then jobs and promotions, then wealth, status, and approval. Life becomes a race where we run faster and harder, always looking for the next achievement that will finally make us feel worthy. But no matter how much we achieve, the satisfaction never lasts. You might get the applause, the recognition, even the fame. But within days, sometimes within hours, the hunger returns. Ego whispers again. Now what? What's next? How will they see me now? This is the trap of being somebody. You begin to live not for yourself, but for the image of yourself you think others want to see. Every action, every choice, every effort becomes about protecting that image, feeding that image, and proving that image is real. You measure your worth by the approval of others, and when the applause fades, so does your sense of self. But here's the truth that few dare to admit. The more you try to be somebody, the heavier life becomes. Why? Because it is exhausting to constantly wear a mask. It is exhausting to compare yourself to others, to fight for recognition, to fear losing what you've gained. Living for ego means living in fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of failure, fear of being forgotten. Deep within, your soul longs for freedom. Not freedom from effort or from responsibility, but freedom from ego. Your soul does not crave to be somebody, it simply craves to be. To live authentically without.
To needing to prove or perform. To breathe without the pressure of comparison. To laugh without worrying about appearances. To love without conditions. And here lies the first step to spiritual awakening. Realizing that the beauty of life is not in being somebody in the eyes of the world, but in being nobody in the eyes of the ego. When you no longer need to define yourself by titles, possessions, or recognition, a profound peace begins to rise within you. Think about it. The flowers do not try to be somebody. The rivers do not try to impress. The stars do not compete to outshine each other. They simply are. And in their simplicity, they radiate beauty. In the same way, you too can discover the beauty of being, not in performance, but in presence. The trap of being somebody is heavy, but the freedom of being nobody is light. And it is only when you stop chasing the illusion of importance that you begin to experience the true essence of life: peace, freedom, and authenticity. The freedom of ego death. To be nobody does not mean you are worthless. It means you are free. Free from masks, free from comparison, free from the endless hunger for validation. This is what spiritual teachers across centuries have called the death of the ego. And while the word death may sound frightening, in truth it is the birth of freedom. The ego is that part of you which constantly whispers, "I must be seen. I must be admired. I must be acknowledged." It builds an identity out of titles, achievements, appearances, and opinions. But the problem with ego is simple. It is never satisfied. You may achieve great things, but ego always asks for more. You may be admired today, but ego fears being forgotten tomorrow. You may have recognition in one moment, but ego trembles when it sees someone else surpass you. Living through ego is like pouring water into a cup with no bottom. It will never be full. Now imagine what happens when you let go of this endless chase. Imagine waking up one day and realizing, I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to compete. I don't have to wear a mask. That is the freedom of ego death. It is not the loss of who you are. It is the loss of who you are not. When you are free from ego, you begin to return to your natural state, pure, present, unburdened. You laugh without worrying how you look. You give without expecting recognition. You live without carrying the weight of comparison. Life becomes lighter because you are no longer dragging the chains of identity with you everywhere you go. And here is the paradox. When you stop trying to be somebody, you actually connect more deeply with others. Ego separates. It says, I am above you, or I am below you. Spirit unites. It says, I am with you. Without ego, you no longer need to measure yourself against others, so your heart opens naturally. You listen more, love more, and connect more, authentically. This freedom also brings peace with failure. Ego fears failure because it believes your worth is tied to success. But when you step beyond ego, you realize failure does not define you. It refines you. You are not your achievements, just as you are not your mistakes. You are something deeper, something timeless. Great teachers, saints, and enlightened beings all lived with this freedom. They did not carry themselves as somebody special. They walked humbly, often unnoticed, yet their presence touched hearts more deeply than any fame ever could. Their power came not from ego, but from emptiness, from becoming vessels through which truth and love could flow. To embrace the beauty of being nobody is to embrace the truth that you are more than your identity. The ego may die, but what remains is not nothingness. It is everything. It is love, peace, authenticity, and freedom. This is the gift of ego death. You lose nothing of value, but you gain everything that truly matters. Finding peace in simplicity. The beauty of being nobody is that life becomes simple again. For so long, ego complicates everything. It pushes you to perform, to impress, to achieve endlessly, to wear a mask for the world. But when you drop the weight of being somebody, you discover that true peace is found in simplicity. Simplicity does not mean lack. It does not mean giving up everything and living with nothing. It means living without the unnecessary. It means stripping away the illusions that clutter the mind, the desires that never end, the false images we carry to appear important. Simplicity is the art of living with what is real, with what is essential, with what brings you genuine peace. Think about the small, ordinary moments in life. The warmth of sunlight on your face in the morning. The laughter of children playing without worry. The sound of rain tapping against your window. The comfort of a deep breath taken in silence. These moments are available to everyone, yet so often we miss them because we are too busy chasing something else. Ego keeps us looking outward, running forward, while simplicity invites us to pause and notice the beauty already here. When you embrace simplicity, you stop asking, "How do others see me?" and instead ask, "Am I at peace within myself?" That one question changes everything. Suddenly, it no longer matters if your life looks impressive on the outside. It matters if it feels authentic on the inside. You no longer chase after expensive things just to show others you are successful. You no longer stretch yourself thin to gain approval. Instead, you focus on living in alignment with your values, your heart, and your soul. Simplicity also teaches you to appreciate presence over performance. You realize that joy is not in how much you accomplish, but in how deeply you experience each moment. You begin to notice the taste of your food, the beauty of the sky, the love in a friend's voice. These are not small things, they are the very essence of life. But only a simple heart can truly appreciate them. And here's the miracle. In simplicity, you feel lighter. Stress begins to fade because you are no longer burdened by proving yourself. Anxiety decreases because you stop living for tomorrow's image and start living in today's reality. In simplicity, you reconnect with your true self. Not the version shaped by society's demands, but the version that existed before you were told to be somebody. Great spiritual masters have always taught the value of simplicity. They lived humbly, not because they lacked power, but because they understood that true richness is in peace, not possessions. True fulfillment is in presence, not performance. Simplicity is not emptiness, it is fullness of life without distraction. When you find peace in simplicity, you discover the real beauty of being nobody. Because in that state, you don't need to prove, to impress, or to carry the weight of ego. You can just be, and in being, you find the peace that the world is endlessly searching for, but rarely discovers. The power of humility. When you hear the word nobody, many people mistake it for weakness, insignificance, or invisibility. But the truth is the exact opposite. The state of being nobody is not about losing power. It is about gaining the right kind of power. And that power comes through humility. Humility is often misunderstood. Some think it means lowering yourself or believing you are less than others. But real humility is not about weakness. It is about strength without arrogance, influence without ego, and presence without pride. Humility is knowing that you do not need to stand on a pedestal to shine. You shine simply by being authentic, compassionate, and present. Think about the greatest teachers, saints, and spiritual guides of history. They carried no pride in titles or possessions, yet their presence transformed lives. They did not demand attention, but attention naturally came to them. Why? Because their greatness flowed not from ego, but from humility. They were like clear water, nothing flashy, but deeply refreshing to everyone who encountered them. When you are humble, you no longer need to prove yourself. Nothing can offend you because you are not protecting an image. Nothing can shake you because your identity is not built on fragile ego. A humble person does not shrink in fear, nor do they boast in pride. They walk in quiet confidence, grounded in truth. Humility also opens the heart. Ego builds walls saying, I am separate, I am above, I am below. But humility builds bridges saying, I am with you, I am like you, I see myself in you. This is why humble people attract love and respect naturally. Others feel safe around them because there is no competition, no pretense, no mask, just genuine presence. Another power of humility is resilience. Ego is fragile because it constantly needs validation. The moment it is criticized, it crumbles. But humility is unshakable. If someone praises you, you smile. If someone criticizes you, you learn. Neither praise nor criticism controls your peace, because your worth is not built on the shifting opinions of others. True humility also allows truth to flow through you. When you are full of ego, there is no space for wisdom to enter. But when you empty yourself of pride, you become a vessel. Inspiration, love, creativity, and guidance flow more easily through you because you are no longer blocking them with self-importance. That is why humble people often radiate light. They are clear channels for something greater than themselves. And here's the paradox. When you embrace humility, when you are content with being nobody, you actually become more impactful than ever before. People trust you more, listen to you more, and are moved by you more deeply. Why? Because your words and actions come from sincerity, not self-promotion. So understand this. Humility is not weakness. It is the highest strength. It is not poverty. It is richness of the soul. It is not emptiness. It is fullness of life without ego. The power of humility is the power of freedom, authenticity, and unshakable peace. Awakening to true self. There is a paradox at the heart of life. Only when you embrace being nobody do you awaken to your truest self. For so long, ego convinces us that we are only as valuable as our titles, our possessions, our appearance, or our achievements. We say, I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am rich, I am respected. But all of these are temporary. They can vanish in an instant. And when they do, ego trembles because its entire identity is built on things that do not last. But who are you beyond the titles? Who are you when no one is watching, when there is no applause, no recognition, no label attached to your name? That deeper essence, that presence, that awareness, that is your true self. And the beauty of being nobody is that it strips away the false identities so you can finally meet the real you. Awakening to your true self is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what you have always been. As children, we lived freely. We laughed without needing approval, we played without worrying about image, and we loved without conditions. But as we grew older, the ego began building its masks, teaching us to hide our authenticity behind roles and identities. To awaken is to peel away those layers one by one until only truth remains. When you awaken to your true self, life feels lighter. You no longer chase validation because you realize you are already whole. You no longer compare because you understand that each soul has its own unique path. You no longer cling to possessions because you see that true richness is in peace, love, and presence. In this awakened state, happiness is no longer fragile. It flows naturally because it is not dependent on anything outside of you. And here is the great beauty. When you are nobody in the eyes of ego, you are everything in the eyes of spirit. You become part of something infinite, connected to Yin, very soul, every star, every breath of creation. You realize that you were never separate, never small, never insignificant. You were always part of the divine whole, eternal, boundless, unshakable. This awakening also transforms how you live. Every moment becomes sacred because you no longer rush past life chasing illusions. Every relationship becomes deeper because you no longer wear masks. You show up authentically. Every challenge becomes easier because you no longer resist. You flow with life instead of fighting it. The beauty of being nobody is not emptiness. It is fullness. Fullness of presence, of love, of peace, of authenticity. It is the freedom to live without ego and the courage to stand in your true essence. And when you awaken to this truth, you stop performing life and start living it. So embrace the beauty of being nobody. For in that state, you discover the greatest truth. You are not your name, your job, or your achievements. You are timeless awareness, infinite love, and eternal light. That is who you really are. As we come to the end of this message, I invite you to take a deep breath and feel the truth of what you've just heard. For so long, we have been conditioned to believe that life is about becoming somebody, about building an identity so strong that the world cannot ignore us. We chase success, fame, validation, and recognition, hoping that when we finally reach the peak, happiness will be waiting. And yet, how many people reach that peak only to discover emptiness at the top? The beauty of being nobody is that you don't need to climb that endless mountain anymore. You don't need to prove, to perform, or to carry the heavy burden of ego. You can step off the stage of the world and rest in the quiet truth of your soul. You realize that you are enough, not because of what you have achieved, but simply because you are. Being nobody is not about weakness or invisibility. It is about freedom. Freedom from comparison, from fear, from the exhausting need to always be more. When you embrace being nobody, you are no longer trapped by the shifting opinions of others. You are no longer a prisoner of your own ego. You are free to laugh without pretense, to love without conditions, to live without fear. And here's the paradox. When you let go of the need to be somebody, you actually become more powerful than ever before. Why? Because your presence is no longer forced, it is authentic. People are not drawn to your titles or achievements, but to your sincerity, your humility, and your peace. The greatest souls in history were not those who shouted the loudest, but those who emptied themselves of ego and allowed truth, love, and wisdom to flow through them. The beauty of being nobody is also the doorway to awakening. When you strip away the false identities, the roles, the labels, the masks, you discover your essence, your true self. You realize you are not your name, not your job, not your possessions. You are awareness itself. You are the witness behind the roles, the stillness beneath the noise, the eternal light within the temporary body. And in that realization, peace arises. Peace that cannot be shaken by loss, success, failure, or even death. So as you leave this message, carry this truth in your heart. You do not need to be somebody to be whole. You do not need to be important in the eyes of the world to matter in the eyes of the divine. You are already enough, already complete, already infinite. The world may forget your name one day, but your essence, your light, your love will ripple far beyond this lifetime. That is the beauty of being nobody. You become everything. So let go, be free, be nobody, and in that state, you will discover the deepest joy, the purest love, and the unshakable peace that your soul has been longing for all along.